All right, we are now ready for our normal work session agenda. It is October 20th, 2025, 6:03 p.m. And at this time, I would like to call to order this meeting with a roll call starting from my right.
Councilwoman Vanessa Wynn.
Mayor Pro Tem Amelia Inman, Councilwoman Yolanda Shepherd.
And Mayor Reynolds, thank you so much. At this time, please silence your phones and a moment of silence, just a moment. All right, council, we're ready for the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve work session agenda October 20th, 6 p.m.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. We only have 2 items on the agenda for tonight for discussion. We have sim sites and also I believe Peace Trucking we will not hear from for presentation. So we will just have just one tonight, correct? Okay. Is sim sites ready? Okay, they will be on virtually, council.
Okay.
And just so you know, sim sites is a company that offers cemetery software. So we're able to get plots in order. Lithonia City Cemetery and Bruce Street. You can. I just told them who they are, but
Okay.
you can too.
So, real quick, I know the mayor just talked about who they are. Big advantage to us here at the city, especially inside City Halls. We get numerous calls, numerous people come by here all the time trying to figure out, in certain, on Bruce Street Cemetery especially, where their loved one is buried, where the headstone is at. Is there a map? We don't have a map of that. I think that's one we just took over, right, Mayor?
Mm-hmm.
We just, because no one, I think, was taking care of it, so
Right.
the city just stepped up and took care of it. Now, Randall and Trimble, we do have somewhat of a map. I think it's a map for half of it. It's an old, outdated map, and it just shows the people that own the plots. It doesn't show the actual person who is buried there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let them talk and go over what all they do and everything, and then.
Can they see anybody?
Can you hear me okay?
Is that Mr. Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you all today. My name is Chris with SemSites, cemetery software. So my goal today was going to be to walk you through some of the things we've talked to with Shamika and Donald about with our program and what we have to offer. To give you a little history about SemSites, basically we're the first cloud cemetery software vendor in this industry back in 2012. So we are the most experienced vendor out there. And we have about 1,200 different cemeteries that use us all across North America. And most of our municipalities, or I should say most of our clients are municipalities, about 60 to 65% at this point. We've taken plenty of cemeteries just from paper records or very limited records to the digital age. So we definitely are happy and excited to work with clients just like you. And, we are totally, like I said, based in the States. We're in Western Pennsylvania, but we are 100% made in America when it comes to development, support, storage, and everything that goes with that. So if you all are ready, I can kind of walk you through what software we talked about and how it can be used. If you do have any questions before you want me to start, we could start with that, or we could save them to the end. I'll leave it up to you as far as if you're ready for me to start or if you have any questions.
You can go ahead and start.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So basically, this is the part of the software that you would be using as far as entering records and keeping track of the cemetery records. So if someone did come to you and you wanted to type in their first initial and even just their last name, if that's all that you had as a record, you would be able to go into the program and you'd be able to see if you have a contact record with basic notes and information about them, like this record, if they were known or how many plots they would have the right to be able to use with this dollar sign record, and ultimately if they're buried, this henstone record. And then if I were to click into this one for June Marie McGill, it would actually allow me to see where in the cemetery grounds and which cemetery she's buried. And then below that, you would be able to see and log if it was a cremation burial or a full body if you knew that level of detail. The date of birth, death, burial, any historical information that you might not want to log, like this funeral service that helped with the actual burial, so the funeral home, if you will, and the mortician, even the clergy, if you want to get that specific. And then below, you would also be able to indicate if there were a veteran or not to produce better reports for Memorial Day, Veterans Day, things of that nature, as well as any further historical information or anything about the next of kin who's responsible for that property, as well as notes and other things that we could get more into if you have more questions about that. And when it comes to seeing the grounds represented itself, you can go into the mapping portion of the software. And what we can do is we can actually take your maps and redraw them. So for the one cemetery, I have an example of in the software where they were able to go ahead and give us their general maps of how things should be laid out at the cemetery. It looks more like what we have on the screen now. And then behind that, we have the background of what the cemetery actually looks like, the grounds, if you will. And when you combine what you give us and the grounds together, it kind of gives you a better example of seeing how everything's laid out and where everything is. With our proposal, we not only offer to do the mapping, but we offer to do an enhancement to the mapping. So what I mean by an enhancement is we can actually take it and put down the trees, we can put cleaner and crisper lines to make the map look better, and even road names and street names on the actual layout of the property. So this way, if someone was coming to you all to find information about where their loved one is, you could either type in a plot number if they had a deed that they brought to you, or you could type in a name. And it would be able to search between your different cemeteries all at once and see where they are. This would be an example of, you typed in the name June, it said they were in Rest Haven Cemetery in Section 4, Lot 693, Grave 1. And then recording stopped. And then you were able to hover over that pin and hit Show Available Nearby. And it would show you any available graves in that area around that specific grave. And then from there, if you needed to be able to sell someone one of those plots, it would be as easy as finding the area that they want to be buried, clicking reserve, typing in a name like Paul Jones, and then if you already had one of the Joneses as a customer,
Chris,
you could type in the name.
Chris, hold on just a second. We lost connection. Just a moment.
Sorry about that. Okay.
I wasn't affected directly.
You were.
With the home, most of it. Oh, everything?
Oh.
Oh. Oh, okay. That's what's up.
Recording in progress.
Ready? All right, Mr. Chris,
Yep, I'm here.
you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'll backstep just a little bit to catch up with where I was, how I got to here. So basically, I was saying that we had a map that we redrew and made it look more like this. And we basically have color codings at the bottom, so you know what each color means on the map. And if somebody said they wanted to find a loved one, you could type in a name like June. It would show exactly where that person would be in the cemetery grounds. And then if you wanted to find something available nearby, you could just hit Show Available Nearby. And then it would pull up these pins to show you the graves that are available in that area around that cemetery, and then reserve. And then you could type in the name like I started to, Paul Jones, and search for an owner. Like we could type in the name Chris, and it would see if you have any records of any Chris's that bought property before, and you could pick it. And then it'll reserve that property right for that person. So this way that your maps are always live and up to date with the most accurate information of what properties are reserved, which ones are paid for, if you will, which ones are occupied, and which ones are available. And then to update that record, it's as easy as typing in the name like Paul J for Jones or Jackson, whatever name you might have. and then you can add it. It'll update the contact info, and all you have to do at that point, ladies and gentlemen, is add in the dates. It'll put in the age for you, and then you've updated the burial record successfully. And then with our software, not only can you go in and you can record the burial information, but you can also go in and you can have a calendar to see when you're going to actually be doing the work. So if you're doing burials or cutting the grass or on the grounds, it's a fully integrated calendar system that can show you and tell you when you're supposed to do work and at which cemetery. So it's really record management, history management, work management, and then allowing you to archive certain information and tie it right to the property. So again, if I wanted to go to one of those property records and somebody wanted to know more about their Aunt June McGill, you can actually go down and you can go to a bottom section that says private files, and then you can hit select, and you can add as many documents or as many photos right to that record as you might want to. Thus having a virtual filing cabinet essentially that you can have everything tied to, so it's all stored in the cloud, so you don't have to worry about a desktop program blowing up and losing those records, or a fire and losing any paper records. And then you can label them appropriately as well. So that's going to be a highlight of kind of the internal system. Some other things that would be helpful for you to know that you would be able to pull reports out of the system. So if you wanted to be able to go in and get an annual burial report or a veterans report, it would be as simple as saying, show me all the veterans, show me all the veterans by cemetery, and then maybe alphabetically. And it would give you a total at the bottom. And then if you would want to print that out, you could go to Report Builder, and then you could print that veterans report right out of the system, or save it as a PDF and email it to any group that you want to go look up or find or place those flags, like a Boy Scout group or American Legion or anything else like that, to help represent your fallen veterans in your cemeteries. And then last but not least, in regard to reporting, if you wanted to do like an annual burial report, it would be as simple as going to this last column and picking the range, whether it's over a course of 10 years at a custom date range, or just we could say this year, and then filtering from January to November, October, December, wherever you are in the year. And then once you have that date range set, you could go back to Report Builder, and then schedule. And what you can do is you can get annual reports sent right to your staff. So we can say every December 31st on an annual basis at the end of the year, send me a report that says annual burial report, all cemeteries. And then once you have that put in there correctly, you save it, and now you'll just get an email once a year or once a quarter of how many burials you've had between either all your cemeteries or per cemetery, however you want to set that up. And if you ever need to find that report again, it's just saved under reports and then all property and starred right at the top with a star. So you can have those custom reports set up. And then finally, if we were thinking down the road and where we wanted to get to with software, we have some different examples of client websites we built, like this one, which is for another township in North Carolina. And if I were to go look at their website that they have now, you can tell it looks like a standard municipal website, right, built by Civic Plus. And on there you have your different resources that the community can go and engage with, like departments, Parks and Rec, cemetery. When you go to that website, we built this page for them that you can see looks exactly the same, and just has some search parameters. So when I go in there and I type in a name like James Smith, it tells you how many are there, and then you can zoom in and see right where your loved one's buried without even having to call anybody. And then if you would want to go a step further than that, we can even have it to where you can go into this program on your website, and then you'd be able to have somebody get walk-in directions right to a gravesite. So on here, we basically have another cemetery. It's a client of ours close by, and we went out and we did a screen record of what they're looking at on their phone and what they're doing. And basically, we could give you a QR code that you could put on a sign and put that sign on the ground. And then once it's on the cemetery grounds, they could scan it. And then they would just type in the name of the loved one, hit walking directions, and then their phone would actually be able to walk them from wherever they are to that specific grave, or from their home, driving directions to the cemetery. And basically how this all gets set up is we would work with, whatever we can for you to give you a good resource to put the information in. Like I talked with the mayor about a Excel spreadsheet that I'd shown them to kind of get everything in the same order. And as long as that information can be filled in the correct order, we can migrate it into SimSites to have the data pull over. And then we would work with you to get maps that you'd be able to provide, as I said, to kind of redraw the areas of what's there. We just need a base survey to kind of see how everything's laid out, and then we can make it look better and enhance it to make it more accurate for your staff to use. But then again, using the public tools that I just showed you will allow the public to be able to get where they need to get quicker, especially if they're doing genealogy. You know, you don't necessarily want staff, you know, helping people find 100 loved ones or 10 loved ones for a family reunion, but definitely, you know, there's that-need situations and need to be respectful and courteous. But with a tool like this, those bigger asks for genealogy purposes or where all your veterans are can be made simpler as well. So if there's any more specifics that you would like me to show, Mayor, or any questions anyone has, I'd be happy to bring those to the floor and answer any questions you have of us.
Okay,
That's what I have planned for today.
thank you. You covered a lot, actually. Council, do you all have any questions, concerns, or Chief?
I did have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So, I work with a few projects with GDOT, and recently there was a situation where construction there was this commercial group that started building in another city, and for some reason, I guess whoever was over the permit process didn't let the commercial company know, the developers know, so they actually end up building over a cemetery. And so, yeah, it's crazy. So I was just curious, like this recently just happened. So do you all kind of work as a liaison? And I don't know if that's something the city would have to be over, but as far as like letting certain authorities know, even outside of the city, like if a developer wants to come in, you have to make sure, like archaeology or cemetery wise, that this is cleared. Like, do you know how that process would work?
My basic recommendation would be if there's land that is currently used for cemetery, whether it's public or private, that would be the first thing to establish. And then you can actually do a couple different processes. The one process would be to actually do a process called disinterment, which means you have the bodies redug up and moved to one of the designated specific cemetery locations. That would be a way that development would be able to continue their excavation of the property, and just those specific grave sites that are notated and found could be moved. If you need to figure out what graves are actually used and not utilized, there's two processes under that. One is ground probing, where you have someone take a giant metal rod and they essentially probe for caskets or markers or different things in the ground. The second service and option would be a ground penetrating radar, what's called GPR, to see if there's anything in the ground. Neither is a perfect science, because with the probe, if it's a wooden box, it could just go through it. Or if it's deteriorating, it's 200 years old, it wouldn't be there anymore. And for the ground penetrating radar, it'll tell you something's in the ground, but it doesn't necessarily know a headstone from a boulder from a stump. So I would say the process that I would approach first would be to try to disinter the graves that you know are there and move the stones to a registered cemetery that's in the town. The second option I would do, if you don't want to undergo that process, would be to recoup or hold that land and designate it as a cemetery property and just fence it off as that specific small piece of land, and the development could use the rest. As far as legal processes and procedures, that would be dependent on each state and each city and county, actually, that specific. So I couldn't give you exact legal counsel on that at all, but those would kind of be your two processes you would want to start to evaluate. Can we move these folks and put them into an area that is developed and designated for cemetery use, where there's a specific open section that we can put them in? And if not, is there another cemetery in town that's privately owned that they would be willing to work with us to do that, either for free or at a discounted rate? And then if you don't want to move them, then I would go through the process and the legal channels to figure out if you can designate that one property as a historical site and get it registered as like a historical cemetery or something to that effect. Those would be the two best paths to go down, and that would be my experience. I worked here for 5 years of what I would begin the process of doing.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting, because I never even had to think about it. It's like, wow. Well, yeah.
Yeah, we have similar situations with, pet cemeteries and human cemeteries. There's various states and laws and regulations. And right now I'm dealing with one in Baltimore that is going to be both human and pet cemeteries, but they have their own stringent and set rules. And I have another client actively that's in Colorado, and they had a wives' tale from about 100 years ago to 150 years ago that there's a whole horse spirit in their cemetery, and they were actually able to verify that because of the ground penetrating radar. Now they're like, yeah, it really is there, and they're able to kind of see it. So funny stuff like that does happen.
Wow, that's amazing.
Okay. Is there any other questions, concerns? All right. And I believe Ashley, our city clerk, sent you all the proposal from SimSites. Have you all looked over or had any questions about the proposal?
I mean, it seems affordable.
Okay. That's what I said too. Yeah.
Needed.
Needed. Very much so. Okay. And Chris, that proposal, that was for both cemeteries, the Bruce Street Cemetery as well as Lithonia City Cemetery?
I had all three. The only thing we need is maps. So you were going to work on getting us the one map for the main cemetery, and you mentioned the other two might not have maps at all. So we talked about there's two paths to get that shored up. Okay. You could either look for the maps and give us the maps so that we can do it under that same scope of work, or if you have to get them surveyed, you would just get them surveyed, and then you would send us that, and we would do the work hourly and just write an estimate of what it would be to do the mapping for those two cemeteries separately. Everything else is covered under the cost. It would just be, right now we have a scope of work to do the one cemetery map and redraw it. We would just need to know if we're going to get more maps from you for the other ones in this same scope, or if that's going to be like something down the line where you get a survey to redraw. Yeah. Okay, this is a lot in a defined area of this cemetery because it's so old we don't have any paperwork on it anymore. And then once that's prepared, you could give it to us, and then we could insert that into the cemetery software as well for the smaller cemeteries, which you were mentioning. The two might not have maps, or the one of the three might not have maps. You were going to verify that and get back to me.
Okay, that's correct. So two of them, both of them is called Bruce Street Cemetery. We have two, one on each side of the road. So those are the two that are very old that we don't have maps on. Lithonia City Cemetery, we should have an old map from way back in the day that was given to us by Mr. Henry long time ago at that particular funeral home because he had it. And that will be sent over to Chris as soon as Chief and Ashley locates that.
We found it.
You found it already?
We got to scale it down.
Scale it down. Okay, so they found it. Just need to scale it down on the Lithonia City Cemetery. Okay, so Mr. Chris, we appreciate you coming in today. Of course, our normal meeting back in session will be the first Monday of November, probably the Tuesday. We have voting, right? Move it to the 6th. Okay, so we'll make sure it gets on the agenda for an actual approval by council, but today was just a discussion and for you to present. So we won't hold you any longer, but you did a great job showing council what you can offer to us. And I do seem like I have consensus, it's affordable, what we were emailed over Friday. So I appreciate your time and efforts on this.
No, I thank you. It's an honor and privilege to help cemeteries all over the country, and yours is one of historical significance. So hopefully we can get the records in, more organized, better shape, and then we can get that digitized, and then we can get the community the resources they deserve to find the people that they honor and that were here before us. Because none of us would be here without the people before us.
That's right. That's true. And we really appreciate your hard work. Thank you so much.
You're all very welcome. Thank you so much for your time today as well. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great evening, and we'll be here when you need me.
Okay, we'll be in touch soon, real soon, with the map.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, because we've been struggling.
Then we increase the
Oh, God. I don't even want to think about it. But that's a cute.
Oh, yeah.
It is
Should have.
It is.
I need to check on that, too.
I don't even want to think about human.
All right. So at this time, council, we're going to move forward. Is there any need for executive session?
I mean, is there?
No.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
All right. Well, at this time, we need a motion to adjourn. We're all done.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned at 6:27 p.m. Thank you so much, you all, for staying, Mr. Johnston and all of our guests. Thank you.
Okay, so I had a question.
Uh-huh.
You know how we always rate, you know,
Yeah.